Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube pipe community. Lewis here with a much happier video than last time. I'm enjoying a little bit of Dunhill early morning pipe in what is to be the subject of my video, and that is this pipe. And my goal is to tell you a little story about this pipe. It's got its ups and downs, but I'll tell you, I ultimately am very happy. I am drinking a little bit of Macallan 12-year. And seems to be a really great complement to early morning pipe, despite the fact that it is not early morning. Anyway, so the story behind this pipe. My wife is from the Kansas City area, a little bit north of Kansas City. And I was stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas. So while I was there, I got to know Kansas City pretty well. And Kansas City has a little store in Country Club Plaza called Diebel's Sportsman's Gallery. Now, one day while I was in Kansas City, I saw a post on rebornpipes.com. Guy does some amazing restorations on pipes and goes through the whole process. It's a fantastic website and you should check it out. But I found out that the original proprietor to this store, it's still family owned, but the original proprietor of this store back in the 70s and 80s had made pipes. I guess he, after becoming an entrepreneur, after opening a tobacco shop, he had developed the bug to make pipes. And so he got with an old German pipe maker and convinced this German pipe maker to teach him how to make pipes. And the proprietor of the store that I'm talking about is named Fred Diebel. Well, I started looking on eBay and found one of his pipes, and I didn't get it. And I regret it to this day. But, well, eventually I did find a couple of his pipes. At this point, I own 3 billiards, a pot, and now ultimately this pipe. Now, what's special about this pipe is, well, there are a lot of pipes labeled Diebels because eventually the pipe maker stopped making pipes and started just repairing pipes and made and had other factories make their pipes, and he would stamp it with a Diebel name. Companies still do that to this day. But the pipes that he made, I found to be particularly good. Inexpensive and incredibly well built. And it's got this great history of Kansas City to it. And one day, just before our wedding anniversary last year, I saw this pipe on eBay. Now, what's special about it is that it's a Diebel Benchmade, meaning that Fred Diebel himself made it, but it's also marked straight grain. And this is the one and only Diebel straight grain pipe that I have seen. And I mean, just look at that. Just look at that grain. It's just beautiful. It really is. And it is a massive, massive bowl. Fantastic for a good, tasty English. I think deeper, wider bowls tend to favor Englishes better. Well, the guy had it on eBay for a little bit more than I was willing to pay. Ultimately, Shot him a message. He didn't sell the pipe, so he got with me and we talked about a little bit lower price. Um, and eventually, I did get my hands on it. I finally got it. Well, when I got it, I noticed that the tenon was cracked, and that was going to be a problem. So I messaged the gentleman, and this is where the story gets interesting. I'll premise this with saying that he was very cordial and responsive and wanting to take care of it, so he had me send the pipe back. And he said that he had somebody that he worked with that would repair the tenon for me. The problem is, 2 weeks later when I got the pipe back, the shank wasn't aligned with the stem, meaning the tenon was set incorrectly. So when a stem and shank should be like this, the stem was off at an angle like so, and there was a gap in the stem. Now, be it as it may, in my line of work, attention to detail is very important. In fact, if I were to buy a $50 Rossi pipe, I would expect that the stem fits. Sorry about that, ladies and gents. I had to take my dog out. She was howling at me. Well, like I was saying, if I were to buy a $50 Rossi pipe, I would want the stem to fit. Even a factory-made pipe, let alone a handmade pipe. And just because it wasn't repaired correctly doesn't make it okay. But that's where this story kind of takes a turn for the worse. Well, this gentleman had tried to fix the pipe once already. I emailed him back and I asked him, hey, this happened. If you can notice this little curvature, it's kind of hard to see that. But paying attention to it, the shank was rounded off a little bit in order to meet the stem. Now that's with the previous stem, the one whose tenon had been replaced. So I had noticed that. I had noticed that the stem wasn't fitting correctly. So I contacted the gentleman and he came back at me very harshly, basically insinuating that I know nothing about pipes, that explaining to me how restorations work as if I'd never done a restoration before myself. Now, granted, I haven't made a stem, but I know what right looks like, and if there's a gap between the shank and the stem, that needs to be addressed. He also insinuated that my standards were way too high. Well, be it as it may, the gentleman was talking down to me. I told him that I had somebody that could replace the stem for me, but I would like a partial refund, $25 or so, just to help with the repair of the stem because it was going to cost me $50. Well, he denied me off the bat, basically saying that I was wrong, that that was the original sale, that I would devalue the pipe because I was getting rid of the original stem. The problem was, if he were to take it back, they would shorten the stem a little bit, they would flatten it out, making the width of the stem just a little bit thinner, meaning that they would have to round off that shank just a little bit more. Well, this guy comes back telling me that I could just turn that tenon within the stem itself, and it could be fixed, but I needed to send it back to have that happen. Yeah, that's not going to happen, guys. He screwed it up the first time, and apparently his attention to detail, I guess my standards are higher than his. So ultimately, I had to eat that money, eat those $50, and send this pipe off to get a stem. Now, I'm going to say that I heard about George Debos on the Pipes Magazine radio show, and from another friend, Chris. And George did an absolutely fantastic job. This is a completely hand cut stem. The button is perfect. It's incredibly comfortable. For such a long and pretty large pipe, it's incredibly clenchable, though I tend not to do that. And the stem fits wonderfully without doing any more damage to the shank itself. And so I commend George Devos for doing that for me. But it came back. Ultimately, I have a pipe seller on eBay, very well-known pipe seller that would rather win an argument than make more sales in the future, which is a shame because he's had more Diebels pipes up for sale since then. Frankly, I'm not willing to pay the kind of money that he asked for a Diebels pipe, considering the amount of service and the amount of disrespect that that gentleman gave me. But now I'm here, sipping whiskey and enjoying this gorgeous pipe. And man, it smokes beautifully. So yeah, I'm happy there. Secondly, I got another pipe, guys. And this is in thanks to my friend Jonathan. I had restored a couple K Woodies, and he had gotten a bunch of pipes as a gift. And he found a few that he knew he wasn't going to smoke. Now, I mentioned my dog earlier. I've got an English bulldog. Her name's Penelope. She is a joy. Incredibly hyper. I thought I was getting a fat, lazy dog that would sit with me on the couch. That is not the case. She wants to play 24/7. Tug of war is her favorite. But despite the fact that she sheds like a maniac, she is an absolute joy. I do love her very much. And so when I saw this, I just had to have it. So I do love meerschaum pipes. I've got a claw that you guys have seen before, and I've got a an old, probably at least 100 years old, G. Larson Lilliput meerschaum pipe. It's a billiard. It's wonderful, and that was my father-in-law's father's pipe, or my wife's grandfather's pipe. And it's wonderful. It's a great little tasting pipe. Doesn't hold a whole lot of tobacco, but for a good short smoke, it's a wonderful pipe. And I love meerschaums for so many of their qualities. The fact that they don't ghost, they're pretty easy to keep clean. Color over time, and just the flavor from the smoke is so clean. Let me show you that again. And it's it may be hard to see. It's inscribed Yunus on there. And I've seen some newer Yunus pipes go for a substantial amount of money. I think this is one of his earlier works, but I'm really happy with that too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for spending your time with me and listening to me ramble. Listening to me talk about my beautiful Diebel straight grain, and enjoying my little bulldog with me. I hope you all enjoy your weekend if you're at that point, and blessings and smoke rings, folks.